Hi everybody! So this week I'm going to tell you about my survey that I had done last week. But first I do have some footage of other sort of bits and bobs that I've done this week. So we'll do that first and then I'll get on to the survey.
Oh my god, look at how cute these birds are. They're little baby ducks. I don't want to go outside because then they might be frightened away, but they're so adorable. Listen to that sound. Oh, there's another one coming. I wonder how many there are. It's so cute.
I've just bought some storage boxes because I've still got stuff just languishing with no real home. So I've got one for I'm going to put out, a bigger one I'm going to put out on the bow on the well deck, and then I've got two sort of smaller ones that will go under the bed with some stuff in. I've got like wetsuit and stuff with nowhere to go, so that can go in one of these. But I also bought a folding like sun lounger. I think I'm going to replace this. Sorry, this place is a tip, so just ignore that. I think I'm going to replace this chair with this sun lounger, but we'll see. We'll see. I've left it in the car for now, but I'll show you that later. But I've got to stop going shopping because I also Right Way, which is where I got these, is right next to the shop, and I got cider, wine and crisps, but I also did get smoothie. I was just walking past it and thought, oh my god, I need smoothie in my life, probably because of all the other really unhealthy stuff that I'm having, so at least that's good. But yeah, not the best. I need to stop spending money on snacks. The next job is fill some of these holes. So I'm on the bed, so I've taken the mattress off, and like dirt and muck and spiders keep coming up this gap here, and then I can't get to sleep. So I'm gonna fill those holes. It is so hot in here though. There isn't much of a breeze in the bedroom without opening the front up, but it does kind of feel like it's gonna hammer down, which might be quite nice. So I've got the door open and I'm just keeping an eye on the weather, but it's got that, it's got that muggy feel to it, so fingers crossed. You're never going to believe this though, with all my paranoia about smoke alarms. I don't know if I've told you about that, but I keep phantom hearing smoke alarms. Well, now the neighbour's boat, I think it's the neighbour to one side, the smoke alarm's going off, a low battery warning. It goes beep 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 every minute or so, which is really annoying. And they don't live on the boat, so I don't know when they're going to be back, and I don't have a number for them. So the marina might, but we'll see. If the battery wears itself out, that would be really great. But it's about 3:30, 4 o'clock, so it's not too intrusive now, but by night time when it goes quiet, I think it's going to be quite noisy. So, oh well, we'll worry about that when it comes to it. Alright, I've got a bit silicone happy, but at least there's less holes. So I've done sort of this one and down there, and then I had to stick some wood in there because the hole was so big, but I've managed to fill that. I've also filled some gaps like in here, and let's go around here, sort of on the floor, gaps in here, and another one the other side of the bathroom door here. So this wasn't too big of a gap, but that one was. So I'm gonna have to go around when this is dried, so you can see a gap there where the hole's just too big and it hasn't filled enough, and I don't have anything to fill the hole with before I silicone over it. So we're just kind of filling the boat with silicone basically. That'll increase its buoyancy somewhat. For my next trick, I'm going to put a couple of hooks up in the bathroom. So I'm going to put these up. I was using these, but as I said in the last video, they just fall off. This has fallen off again, and I just kind of squished it back on this morning, but it's gonna fall off any minute. So yeah, I'm gonna put one up here, one over here, and then with any luck these will not fall out. of course this doesn't want to come off now, which is just great. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave that one up there, it'll fall down eventually, and then just put one over here and one over here and keep using it till it falls off. So I drilled a hole, pilot hole, and then I'm just screwing this in. Oh, bloody hell, that's tight. And the second one. Ta-da! It's a bit wonky in it. There we go. It's better. Ta-da! I'm going to tackle a squeaky fender today. So I think it's this one. And during the day you can't like hear it at all, but at night it's really loud. Just heard one there. I think it's from the neighbour's boat. Where is it? There it is. And when the boat squishes on it, it goes creak, and it's really irritating. So I've been doing some research online about squeaky fenders and seeing what I can do about it. Is it going to squeak? Just waiting for the boat to get closer. Okay, so that barely made any sound, but when it's windy, the boat squeaks quite a lot. Let's see if I can make it squeak. Yeah, so is it that one? Listen out. That's quite noisy, isn't it? Okay, so it looks like I've got 3 to deal with, one of which isn't even on my side. You can see where it's rubbing off the paint, so it's definitely rubbing. So this is the one that I've taken out mid-length along the boat. This seems to be, well, the easiest to fix and the one that's most likely making the noise on my boat anyway. So it's a good shape, and I've got some tights, some old tights that might go over it, and I've also got some you know, that squishy like draw lining stuff. Maybe if I wrap that first and then put the tight on, and maybe and then elastic band around the side. So I'll do that and see what you think. So this is the draw lining stuff that I mentioned. That's quite a big piece, but if I find one that's, oh, there we go, that might do, smaller piece, wrap that around it, and then I've got some old tights here that, you know, if I cut a leg off and then slide onto the fender and then just wrap one of these like bands around it. Okay, well, even if it doesn't work, it looks good. So I've just wrapped around that white stuff, and I didn't need an elastic band around the tight. I've just tied a knot in the top. So drop that down there and see if it squeaks now. Watch me drop my phone in the water now. Right, that is silent, so that's nice. Right, and time to do the other one. This one's a little bit more fiddly, trying to get this over here, it's a bit tighter, but hopefully it'll work. Right, see if it squeaks. Ha ha ha. Excellent. So survey. I've got it up on my PC, so if I'm looking up here, that's what I'm looking at. So it was done last week. It took a couple of hours. He did around the outside, the hull, and then sort of did a walkthrough of the front and checked everything in the front. So a couple of things. I'm not quite sure I trust this guy because he says things that I don't have. He claims that I do have them, and then some things that I do have, he doesn't mention them. So the first thing is that he says I have traditional double doors and a hatch at the back, which I clearly only have the one door. So either he didn't look properly, or he's like mixing up two different boat surveys. I don't know. So that's the first thing. And he also claims that my emergency equipment is I've only got one carbon monoxide alarm, which is true, but I also have, you can see one here, that's one of the smoke alarms. And he doesn't mention that I have any smoke alarms. He does mention other things I do have, which is fine, like the fire extinguishers and the fire blanket and that sort of thing. But another thing is the gas installation. So my boat has its gas locker sunk into the hull at the back of the boat. A lot of people's boats that you'll see, it's on top, so usually like one either side of the door, but mine is two to one side and it's sunk lower down. So that's quite outdated practice now. So there's two bottles in there and it's got a drainage hole, but the drainage hole, the bottom of the gas locker sits lower than the water line, so water kind of sloshes in and out, and it's got a drainage hole for that. So it's not amazingly safe because gas can kind of sit in the bottom, but it's still allowed. It's not been sort of disallowed yet. But the previous survey 3 years ago said that this is outdated practice, and I should look at getting it changed. But this guy didn't mention that, and he said it was fine. So maybe that's subjective. I don't know. It wasn't a gas safety check, so maybe on a gas safety check that would be picked up. But interesting that the previous survey picked it up and this one didn't. Different people surveying it, just put that out there. So what else did he say? He also mentions an inverter. Now, I was pretty sure, well, I knew that the boat didn't have one. The previous owners said that they didn't install one. They didn't like the idea because it can drain the batteries, and obviously if I'm in a marina, I'm hooked up to electrics anyway, and I do have a power generator for if I go out and about, and solar panels. So yeah, I didn't think I had one, and he claims the boat does, and he said it's wired correctly, and I'm like, well, where is it then? So I'm gonna have to go looking for that to see if there is one. But as I say, previous owners and the owners before that, the guy before the previous owners did a refit of the boat, so he claimed he didn't put one in on purpose. So that's really odd. So I'm gonna have a look to see if I can find that. He also mentions that the calorifier has an immersion element, which it does, but he says it's also heated by the engine. Now, I didn't think that was the case, so this will be interesting. I'll have to test that at some point when I next sort of put the engine on or go somewhere. Because it doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe I just don't get it, because surely that would mean when you put the engine on, the radiators would heat up because it's central heating, and I have a separate diesel tank that controls the central heating, and that's all connected to the hot water tank, which has the immersion heater in it. And then if you want a shower, you don't have to, but you can turn the radiators off in summer, say. So I turn the radiators off, put the heating on for half an hour, and then I've got hot water to have a shower. So that's interesting. If anyone's got any sort of knowledge about that sort of system, then get in touch. I'd love to hear about it, and I'd love to hear if you know whether the engine heats up as well and whether that would heat the radiators up. So yeah, get in touch. So that's it kind of about, yeah, my first kind of read through. I was just like, that's a bit weird, some of this doesn't make sense, but then he made some recommendations, so I'll talk about that next. So the recommendations sit in two categories: recommendations of work that needs to be done before the boat is used. That's generally to cover their own back. So if you were to go out on the boat and it sank, then they would say, well, we told you to get it fixed before you use it, that kind of thing. The others are just advice, so stuff that does not affect the integrity of the vessel. So one of mine is like window seals, so that sort of thing. So advice that needs doing but doesn't need doing right now or when you use the boat. And cost can vary, so just because it's an advisory doesn't mean that it might cost more than the recommendation. So mine only has one recommendation, which I kind of thought might be the case, but this is the biggest problem that I've got now. So the recommendation, I'll read it to you. The craft should have all the shoe plate and angle welded to the base edge, the chine, removed, and the overplating removed, and a new plate fitted in a minimum of 6 millimeters of steel. So that's basically the base was overplated in 2008, so that is now no longer good. So that needs removing. All the welding around the edges that put that onto the sides needs removing, and it needs a completely new base plate, overplating put on it. So overplating is, for again those that don't know, is just where you basically put steel on the bottom of the boat on top of the original base. Now you can only do that once from what I've read, and this kind of backs that up, but if anyone's got any other opinions on this, get in touch. So because all my knowledge kind of comes from the internet, people contacting me, boat owners that I chat to, so I still, there's so much to learn, but yeah, so that, as far as I know, that can only be done once and it has to be removed. So that's where I'm up to, it needs to be removed. Most of the base plate is about 4 mil, but which is insurable. However, one of the deepest areas, about halfway along the boat, 8 meters, and the boat's about 15 meters long, 52 foot, it's got pitting to 1 millimeter, which means it's 3 millimeters, so it's uninsurable. So I do need this doing, and I need it doing soon. So it is something that I'm waiting for a quote from a marina, so if I get that back I will let you guys know about it, hopefully next week, but we'll see. So advisories, I will try and keep this precise. I know you guys are sitting listening to me monologuing here, but advisories, we've got one hull internal. So this one is clean back the Uxter plate to bare steel and repair or overplate as required. Now the Uxter plate, I had to look this up, is like at the back of the boat. I'm not going to explain this very well, but at the back of the boat in the engine bay, the engine sits in the bottom, and then there's kind of sides, and then there's a plate that I was crouching on to fix the bilge pump in last week's video. So in there's a load of like rust, and it said that the survey said it's got quite heavy pitting, so that needs taken back to the steel, treating, and then yeah, repair it, weld it, or overplate as required. So the next one is to open up the water tank. So I can't actually open it. It's a big plate on the front of the boat. I think I've shown you it before, and it's bolted down, and it's also been painted down as well, which is what everybody loves, isn't it? Let's just paint over the cracks. So that's going to be a bit of a pain to open, and I don't think I've got sort of the physical torque to open those bolts. So we'll see. I'll put it on the back burner, but it is something that I need to do. So he thinks I should open it up, clean it and recoat it. Now, previous owner said it hasn't been done that long ago, but I don't actually have a date for that. The next one was the electrical installation. So at the back I have an unsupported battery. So I have one starter battery and a bank of 4 leisure batteries. Now what's happening there is there was originally 3 leisure batteries, and somebody, not me, has put in another battery, but it's on top of the others, which is fine to be on top of it, but it's not in a box, so it could potentially move. I mean, they're super heavy, so it would only be, you know, a bump with another boat or the side of a bank, which could topple it over, which isn't safe. So he said I could keep it, but I just need to move it somewhere else and put it in I could buy a plastic battery box, screw it to the sides in the back, and then just put longer cables to it. So he said that was fine for me to do. So that's an advisory. And then the other one is to fit a proper cable inlet on the solar system. So at the moment, the solar panel cable is coming across the roof and through a mushroom vent at the back into the electrical cupboard. So he said that could potentially like wear away and cause a fire. I mean, it's been like that for about 10 years. Not that that's a reason not to do it, because wearing will happen the longer it's been there. So yeah, he thinks I should fit a proper cable inlet, so I'll have to look at doing that. Let's see, was there anything else? Okay, yeah, so another advisory is to replace the seals on the window hopper vents. Now I actually think I need all the seals doing, because although he said that there's no evidence of them leaking, it's just the sort of discoloration is condensation, I do get drips when it's like raining heavy, so they do, some of the windows do leak, but not a great deal. So I need to clean all the seals anyway, so replace the window seals basically. And I think that is everything. Oh, the internal fuel tank in the cabin is not good practice, so that I don't really have a way of fixing that. So the central heating fuel tank is in the boat, It's in a cupboard at the back, but it is essentially still inside the boat. So I get that, And sometimes, yeah, you can smell diesel when you put the heating on. But you know, I've usually got the windows open. I'd have the door open, except that I'm chatting away, and it's such a quiet Sunday out there, so I don't want to disturb anybody. Or anybody think I'm completely weird for talking to myself. So, but all the windows are open, and usually the door's open. If it's not raining, I'll have the door open because I like the fresh air. But yeah, so that's all the advisories. So it's not a huge issue. The advisories are dealable, but yeah, that overplating is a problem. But it could have been a lot worse. At least the sides are fine. The sides are more expensive, so that's good. But the base plate, yeah, it's going to cost me. But also I'll have to take it there. So I could lift it out, but that is an enormous cost, and they don't do that here. So I'd have to move it to another marina, and that's, you know, half the journey done anyway. So yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to move the boat. Well, I will. I'll have to move the boat to a marina, and of course then I'm using it. So, but I've had some advice. So some of the boat owners around here have, you know, got anecdotal stories of boats that sat here on 2 mil of steel for 2 years and then went and it was fine. But you know, there's always a risk, isn't there? There is a risk, but I'm just gonna have to take that risk. And it'll be the first trip I've done with the boat as well. So it's like, yay, first journey out, and I'm gonna be terrified about it leaking. But we'll see, but yeah, so that's all, and thanks for listening. If you've got any questions about the survey, I'd be happy to answer them. If you want to see the hull thickness throughout, then I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to sort of share details of the equipment that he used, things like that. But yeah, if you want to know that, just let me know, get in touch, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Bye, thanks for watching.